the ideal listener that I want to target, what topics do they care about, and then how do I tie the media asset, aka the podcast that I'm building, into the business that I'm building.
Right.
So it's not just me building it for fun, it's me building it to generate leads for the business, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how I started my show. It was really just future-proofing myself, building a media asset that, you know, sort of put my name out there in a format that I enjoyed, that I knew I could do for an extended period of time.
When I started the podcast, my original kind of idea was this whole wellness at the speed of light, which is good, but the problem is that you're bringing on a lot of these guests, a lot of inside baseball. And people, it just doesn't resonate. So kind of my brand, what I'm trying to do is position myself as I'm just a kid from the Bronx, but I speak normal, like I'm just a normal guy. And I want to take very complicated topics and really distill them down as an expert who can understand like Nobel laureates, but then distill it down to people that have no idea what they're saying. And I'm talking about a lot of doctors don't know this hardcore science. I love reading about it and understanding of it, the personalities of those people. It's a little different, and sometimes people don't care. It's very powerful.
Skill to have, because this is also
This is where I really need help in figuring out how do I get to a position where people see me more. I have more visibility. You have to get the eyeballs before people. Yeah, people locally.
I'll walk you through.
That's I know. Yeah, like.
But I'm telling you, don't move away from health, because even
I won't. I'm definitely not moving away. I'm definitely not moving away from health.
The addressable market for business is like this. Is like this big,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Health. It's
everyone.
It's everyone. So if you look at big podcasts like Diary of a CEO,
yes,
he was just doing entrepreneurship, and then he opened up into health and wellness, and his podcast exploded.
Oh, absolutely. That's what people want. That's what people want to hear.
Or the other direction is you look at Valuetainment with Patrick Bet-David. He was also doing business entrepreneurship. Then he opened up into politics, and then his influence exploded. So it's not that you have to. You can niche if that's your target customer that you want to attract. You want to attract business people or whatever. But you being a doctor,
I want to speak. No.
So if you expand it to health and wellness, like you just have a better shot of building a larger audience quicker than if you were going to be like, I'm a business podcast, I'm an entrepreneur podcast. It's just harder to build unless you sell a product to a business audience, and you don't need scale that way. You just need people who listen to the podcast to convert into customers, which would be a totally different.
It's totally different. Yeah. People, providers, doctors, nurses, dentists, all these people, they do not understand that they have to understand business. They have to understand taxes. They have to understand real estate. And they're so far behind. They're the furthest people behind. When you go to Aspire conferences and you do those things, you never see people. Like when I went there, I was blown away because I met 200 people. I just walk around and just start meeting everybody. So I'm talking to people, and none of them are in healthcare. No one.
That's so interesting.
That I met. And so now my idea is I'm going to try to merge the two. That's why I want to do the business. And by the way, thanks for taking the time to come. It's great.
Of course.
But this is amazing. No, it's great. No, but I'm trying to take the time to, to really educate. So what I'm trying to do is now develop a different kind of mastermind program. I call it the Sovereign Provider Mastermind. And what it is filling rooms with a lot of healthcare providers, and then bringing people that can educate them on how to get out of the rat race.
That's smart.
Because they're trapped. No, this does not exist. It just doesn't exist.
I don't live in healthcare, obviously, but I know a little bit about how healthcare providers struggle, because in the private equity world, dental office roll-ups became so popular because people didn't know how to exit out of their practice.
Correct.
They actually got their own acronym, DSO. Right, where you just go in and a private equity provider goes to all these people who don't know what to do with their practice, don't know how to get out of it, they're stuck in it, and then they buy them all, they aggregate them, and they sell them at a higher multiple.
Yep.
And that became so popular because so many people were just stuck in their practice and they didn't know what to do next. So, I mean, if you can give a little bit of business knowledge or wisdom to an individual provider or whatever, I mean, like that's.
Yep. But you were seeing it at a higher level.
Yeah.
I see it.
I see the people that know the business that are taking advantage of the people. Well, not taking advantage.
Yeah. You're seeing the ones that actually have the sense to say, "Hey, I'm going to work with private equity." But what I see is.
But it got a bad rap. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, it did.
It did get a bad rap.
I still get. I get texts 2 times a week from private equity.
Was probably not.
It's not the right.
They knew the business, and then they were talking to people, negotiating with people that didn't know as much about business as they did. That was the imbalance.
Well, that is
in
absolutely, that's true, but on an individual basis, I'm telling you, docs are struggling, and so kind of the pitch to them is going to be, listen, because I watch them, I see them, they're struggling. And they're living that same lifestyle that everyone else lives, paycheck to paycheck, all this stuff. They don't invest them. They don't know anything about multifamily. They don't know about the age of AI. Like, they literally don't know. I mean, you're in a different world. Like, you're around billion. You're in a different level. Down at the bottom, these guys have they have no clue. They never go to business meetings. They have no idea. They get taken advantage of by everyone. But meanwhile, all their buddies that are kind of in similar, areas of professional lawyers and real estate people, they're in the know. Yeah. And so by the time they, get into their 50s and 60s, they're in a completely different place in life. They're chilling at the golf club and stuff. Doctors are still with their pagers, looking around, third divorce. They got all this stuff going on. So if we can do like an educational series for them to get them off of the hamster wheel, I think it's going to make a huge difference. And so I did, like, obviously before I even started floating the concept, I went and I talked to a lot. I talked to like 20, 25 doc. Everyone is like, yeah, you just let me know when it is. I'm going. I need that.
I love that.
Tell me what's going on.
You bridge both worlds. You straddle like the doctor and the business.
Both worlds, and and I love it. And now doing this entertainment stuff, it's got a long way to go. But for this stuff, you just got. And so this is like I'm trying to do the business thing because it's like now that I want to launch this thing, I have to get guys that are great in business that can talk about this stuff. Like just talking about mitochondria all day. Then they're like, well, what do you know about it? And I was like, well, I'm going to bring all my buddies in. They're going to talk to you, and they're going to make you, better. Because they could use they could use Meltzers. They can use Andrew Cordell, who's my guy. Andrew's amazing. Like me and my wife are going down to do our whole thing with him. Like, if I can bring those guys to the doc, it'll change their life. Like, literally. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. You have no idea. It's funny, because you're so used to it. So they literally do not know what they're doing with themselves.
I'm aware of that gap. I have to always level myself out and understand that, like, the conversations that I have are not the normal conversations that everybody has. But, like, the reason why I even started my stuff is because that gap exists, that knowledge gap. And it was like, I want to take wisdom and lessons from people that have built awesome things. And how do I in a simple way, unpack their playbook and then teach it to somebody who's just starting out so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's the reason why I started the podcast.
No, and it's awesome. And I know, I watch your stuff.
Thank you, dude.
And even your little shorts, I mean, the amount of education and just that that's why you get so much engagement. Before we were chatting about the fact that you were up in Toronto, you decided to start the podcast. Tell me, like, forgetting about what's out there publicly, right? That we can look up on you. What inside? Like, did you just have like a spur of the moment thing, and you just decided? Because I'll tell you my story about how I decided to do my podcast. But was it like one night you were just like, I'm doing a podcast, I'm posting it, now I'm a podcaster. Well, how do you do this thing?
That's not the thing that got me to start the podcast, but that is how I started it. Okay. So there wasn't like a big plan behind starting it. I think I probably could have been a little bit more planned. Yeah. But I think that more people have trouble just defaulting to action and getting started than I think most people just overplan, overthink. And I'll tell you my story in a second, but I know this to be true because the playbook that I've used to start my podcast, because now I have a little bit of a system.
I would say so.
7 years later, when I first started, I had nothing. But a little bit of a system, but I have like codified that, and I'll walk you through it after, sort of like what I do for my show and the marketing around it and the different things I've tried that have worked and haven't. But I've given this playbook and this Excel sheet and this Google Doc to probably about 40 to 50 people. And out of those 40 to 50 people, I think 2 people have actually started a podcast.
Having the playbook.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anything. I was in my gym, and I'm like, I'm doing a podcast, and I'm posting it. But go ahead.
I think that's why in life, I don't know everything that you've accomplished in your career, but that's probably why you've been successful, because you just default to action. Everybody who I know who's been successful, who I've interviewed, they just default to action. They're like, I'm going to figure it out as I go. So it's funny because how you describe starting the podcast, I'm going to start one and I'm going to film it and post it. There's a little bit more thought, but the posting it was like I wasn't overthinking it. I didn't like over edit it. I didn't really know what I was doing with it. So a couple things were happening when I started the podcast. First of all, the company that I was building at the time, that was already going through an acquisition. So I knew that company was going to be acquired. So I had about a year to figure out what I wanted to do after that acquisition.
Okay.
I was a marketer. So I was studying Gary Vee's of the world, and I understood how he built an audience, and he used that to spin off additional businesses. So I thought, well, right now nobody knows my name at all, but if more people know my name, then in the future it's going to be a lot easier to start a business, land a job, do consult, like whatever I wanted to do. But I had no idea what I wanted to do yet. And the other thing that happened, which is a very important thing, is I started dating my current fiance, Gina. And Gina is the co-founder of a company called My Therapist Says, which is an Instagram account. It's a meme account, so humor account on Instagram. They've been building it, so her and her two sisters, for about 11 years now. And to give you an idea, if you walk up to probably a woman and you say, hey, go check out their account, if they aren't following it, probably 50 of their friends are. Amazing. So they have 8.2 million followers, and they do somewhere in the realm of like 800 to 900 million impressions a month with like meme content, humor content. So that was her account, and that was something that she built way before she even knew I existed. So I saw that they built a whole business around content. So I always joke, but it's not really a joke. She was a little bit of my muse starting the podcast because I saw the business they built, and I'm like, that's really interesting. They built an entire business around content. There's an opportunity here because I saw them closing the deals and the RFPs they were responding to and some of the brands they were working with. So let me figure out a content format that works for me that I can use to build sort of my own brand and my own name. And I'm not really interested in doing short form video at the time or doing memes or humor content. But another form of content that I love listening to is podcasts. Like I was listening to a lot of Tim Ferriss. I was listening to Seth Godin. He had he's the first podcast I ever listened to, which was it was nice when he came on my show because that was like a nice full circle moment.
Absolutely.
Because like he's the one I first listened to. He's how I discovered podcasting. But I really just thought if I can build a media asset and I continue building that thing for basically the rest of my life because I enjoy it. I have to enjoy doing it. I have to enjoy having these conversations. But if I can do that, then I've built this audience that whatever happens in the future career-wise, if I want to start a business, if I want to build, a personal brand, even if I wanted to go work for somebody, it's just a lot easier when you have an audience already. People know who you are. It's your online resume, right? So I walked through that story because that was my version of the podcast. I just wanted to build a brand around myself. When people ask, how should you start a podcast? I actually think that's not the smartest way to do it. I think you should be a little bit more purposeful in what type of content am I recording? Who's the listener, the ideal listener that I want to target? What topics do they care about? And then how do I tie the media asset, AKA the podcast that I'm building, into the business that I'm building? Right. So it's not just me building it for fun, it's me building it to generate leads for the business, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how I started my show. It was really just future-proofing myself, building a media asset that sort of put my name out there in a format that I enjoyed, that I knew I could do for an extended period of time, and that's really how I got it off the ground. The first episode, we had a 2-bedroom condo in Toronto. So the second bedroom, it was basically like
this is the studio.
This is the studio. If you go on YouTube, you go to like latest videos, oldest videos, you'll still see these videos.
That's awesome. I got to check.
They're still up there. I was in a full suit because I was always getting dressed up, and now obviously I'm not in a full suit anymore. But if you look at those episodes, I was sitting. So it looks like I'm sitting with there's like a wall there, a wall with a window behind me. It's all white. It's just a bedroom of a condo, and you can't see this, but my laptop is sitting in front of me on Gina's vanity, on her makeup vanity. That's like looking towards. So if you turned it around, it'd be like makeup vanity and purses and shoes, and then like me sitting in the corner doing a business podcast.
I mean, that's how that's how it starts.
So that's how I started it.
Oh, and I mean, I think that's awesome. I love what you said about, and it is true, and we see that everywhere, but it's really important in business, that time between when you have the idea and when you pull the trigger, and always thinking about decreasing the time. It's the same as decreasing the time between when you wake up and when you start working, or working on yourself, I should say, right? Because you can wake up you can just say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be motivated. I wake up at 5, and then all of a sudden it's 8. You've done nothing other than scroll on Instagram and screw around doing something else. Meanwhile, in that time, you could have improved your life so dramatically, and before you even go to work, you're ahead of the whole world. So shrinking that time, is that, you want to talk about
everything.
that as
And
far as
everything.
how critical that is? I mean, you interviewed some of the most prominent people in our society. And you're absolutely, you sure do. Isn't it weird that you talk about starting a podcast, right? In some, like next to the vanity, and now you're interviewing some of the, the most intelligent, successful, people in the world, and they all do that. They all shrink the time, right?
They do that. So they do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, this can apply to a larger life decision, like starting a business. Just ship the product, whatever that is. I mean, there's different versions of this idea, like the lean startup, like minimum viable product, whatever it is. Figuring out if you want to start a podcast on Sunday and then recording it on Monday and uploading it, because that's really what I did. These are important ideas, because I think that if we have access to, especially in 2026, more information than we need on how to do the thing. We have access to unlimited podcasts,
whatever you want,
unlimited YouTube videos. So the thing that holds people back is not access to information, as you know. It's really just taking action. And I think that Mel Robbins speaks about this. She speaks about it in a micro context where if you're even thinking about going to the gym, like, don't think about it, just do it. Because if you think more than 3 seconds or whatever her rule
NASA
is.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Exactly. It's a 5-second rule.
I am dialed into Mel.
If you don't take action, then you're never going to do it. You're going to delay. And even the 50 people that I've given sort of this podcast playbook to that still haven't started, that's a perfect example of why you just have to take action immediately. And people don't take action for a variety of reasons. I think it's probably because in their mind they feel like they don't have it all figured out.
Yes.
Which is a perfectly valid thing to think, because you definitely don't have everything figured out. But you have to understand also that the version, or day one version of the thing that you're doing is never going to be the year 5 or the year 10 anyways.
Yes.
So it iterates so much from when you start. It doesn't really matter what you have to do. You just have to start. The first version of that thing is going to suck. You're not going to be good at it. And then through reps and iteration, then eventually that thing turns into something that's actually good. And fast forward. And to give you an idea of the reps required, not to scare everybody off. This is not meant to scare everybody off. But I'm going to compound a couple ideas here. For the main podcast, I think we have over 11 or 1,200 episodes up on the main podcast. I've probably launched 3 or 4 other podcasts, many of them that I've killed because I don't like them. I've launched a second podcast that's just a solo podcast, me talking about mindset, business ideas. It's still running, but it's not running at the same level as the main one, Success Story. On YouTube, over my YouTube career, meaning like about 8 years of trying to post stuff on YouTube, I probably have 7,000 or 8,000 videos that I've posted. I've done so many different kinds of videos.
That is an incredible body of work.
So the whole
Holy
point
smokes.
is I've hired people to create videos for me. I've done like software walkthroughs, mindset stuff, talked about sales and marketing strategy, done the podcasts and the solo shows. I've done every version of content you can possibly think about. And I've done that because I have to learn what works and what doesn't. And the only way that you're ever going to figure that out and get good at anything is just through doing more and doing more and doing more. And that's something that I see sort of that's a common thread across all creators that I look at. All entrepreneurs as well. I'm talking about it from a creator context in terms of like uploading all these different videos on YouTube. Every entrepreneur that I ever have spoken to, and I've spoken to, I just interviewed Gary Vee, I've interviewed, Mark Randolph, who's a co-founder of Netflix, all these incredible people. None of what they are known for now is how they started. None of what they are known for now is how they started at all. So Gary Vee started with Wine Library TV, which was a YouTube channel focused on reviewing wines, right?
I've watched a bunch of those episodes.
So
it's
Mark Randolph did his first version of Netflix was shipping DVDs out, right? Yeah. So all these stories about, this is where the company started, it looked nothing like what it is today. That's a huge signal that they just took action, started something, and figured it out as they went. And I think that's probably one of the most important ideas that people can take away from this podcast, because out of everything that I see tripping people up in starting podcasts, posting content, building a business, it would just be solved through more action and more reps. That's really it at the end of the day. If they just did more activity, they would find a way to figure it out. Because if you do enough activity, if you take enough action, it starts to become impossible to suck, because you have feedback loops built into your life.
I love that.
It really does. So that's the one thing I want people to take away. I think that we have more information than we need. We have, like I mentioned this before, in 2026, we can research all the things required to do whatever we want to do. I mean, you work with a whole bunch of doctors, dentists, people that own individual practices. All the strategies to scale their practice, delegate, hire and onboard, expand, franchise out. All that stuff is free, available, and they can go learn about it. But people don't. They don't learn about it. They don't hold themselves accountable. Sometimes they need somebody who's in their corner holding them accountable to whatever playbook they choose to deploy. But I think it's really just because we don't trust ourselves to take action, or we overcomplicate it. But I see that to be the biggest thing that trips people up.
Yeah, we're waiting for the perfect time, and the saying goes, right? The perfect time is to take action. I mean, action now.
It's yesterday.
It's yesterday.
It's today.
Exactly that. I mean, and they talk about it constantly, and I see that a lot of people have these great ideas that I'm around, and they never can start. They can't start. What do you think is the biggest barrier to people just starting? I'm around a lot of people that we would just call them, I don't want to go introverts or whatever, and they're not out there, but you'll sit down with them, or they'll have a couple drinks at some event that we're at, and they might be PhDs that are working in a lab or doing something like that, but they can't start. So they'll tell me their idea. They'll say, hey, I came up with this thing, we got this molecule, we checked it out with this, and they're like, and I was like, well, how long you been thinking about it? Like 6 years? Yeah. 6 years? I was like, if I was me, I would have been about 6 days, and I would have been calling every single person I know. What's the biggest barrier in talking to, I mean, you've talked to thousands of people, like what's the barrier to them actually, getting, so I know the Mel Robbins, the countdown, right? She's like, it's the stupidest thing, NASA, whatever, and it's great, she's awesome, and everyone, says it in their own version, but the truth is, why? Like that's the question. And everyone, has a little bit of a different answer, but why? What is it blocking? Is the voice, are we embarrassed? Are we ashamed? Do we not want to venture into a new area? Like, what do you think is the unifying? It's hard to say that. Obviously, everybody's going to give you a different thing, but what's a what's kind of a unifying deal?
I think that it's a little bit of embarrassment that if it doesn't work out, the world's going to judge me.
Yes.
I think it's a little bit of embarrassment. I think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to do this big thing that's never been done before? Or sometimes it's even like, who am I to do this thing that only this cool, successful person that I look up to has ever done before? And you put your person that has done the thing you want to do sort of on a pedestal, and you say, like, how could I ever achieve the same level of success or level of notoriety? Like, I hope people don't think that. I don't think anybody should put anybody on a pedestal, but I think it's a real thing that people do. And I think that what you have to do to sort of counteract that, first of all, you have to understand that nobody is that special. So if somebody else has achieved it, like, truly, you can too.
Yes.
I genuinely believe that. Maybe they had a different set of circumstances, and then you get all the pushback. Like, well, they had a good upbringing, or they had X amount of money, or they were born in this city.
You can always find somebody that has started worse than you have with the thing that you're trying to do.
So I think that really what it comes down to is just the person who has achieved the thing you want to achieve. Because everybody has that person when they're trying to build a business or build an audience or build a podcast. You think, well, that's for them, not me. I could never do that. And then that compounds with, if I even try, people are going to make fun of me. First of all, nobody's looking at you as much as
you think that they're looking at. Yeah,
nobody cares.
That's truth.
At all.
Big time truth.
Everybody, and by the way, when you do start something, even if it sucks, people actually like to support somebody who's up and coming. People will give you feedback. That's super valuable. Nobody will write you off and make fun of you for trying anything, ever. Ever. If you need proof of that, go to the gym in January when people are just trying to get back into the gym.
It's a whole different crowd in January.
If you this is the same mindset that would block somebody from going to the gym in January as well, who hasn't gone to the gym in 20 years. You go to the gym. Say you are a little bit overweight. You haven't gone to the gym in forever. You're super self-conscious about your body. You go in. If you just asked the most jacked dude in the gym for help, you would be shocked at how that dude would stop everything and probably talk your ear off about everything you ever need to know about health and nutrition and weight loss. People are so helpful and so welcoming to somebody that is trying to do something outside their comfort zone. I think it's human nature for us to want to help them. So And even, in a non-gym context, in a podcasting context, which is what I do now for a living, when somebody asks, like, how do I do this? I could probably charge for, teaching them how to start a podcast. And some people, but I'll just talk to them for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour at a conference when I walk off stage.
Probably change their life.
I don't know.
I don't. You said I don't know. Let's not get crazy. But don't undersell yourself, please.
But I mean, just understand that everybody started, and when you show curiosity and you show willingness to try something, a lot of people are going to come and support you and help you and teach you and try and lift you up. So I'm saying that because I want you to stop thinking, if you're just getting started doing something that you've never done before, oh, I'm going to look stupid. Oh, no one's going to support me. Oh, I'm not meant for this. And then if you have seen somebody who has done it, who has built the podcast, built the business, whatever it is, know that they're not that special. They also started wherever you were at some point. And I think that when you realize that nobody's that special, then you're like, okay, so that person is just a few steps ahead of me. That person has just been trying to do this thing longer than me. Maybe I can start to reverse engineer how they got to where they are. And then that starts to clear the gap, clear the pathway or the journey between where you are and where you want to end up. Because when you don't believe that building a business is for you, it's only for entrepreneurs, and you don't identify as an entrepreneur, or building a big audience or building a podcast, that's not for me, that's for somebody else. And you don't see the way to get there because you haven't really broken down the steps that like, I listen to Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is a massive podcast. Okay, so Tim Ferriss built this massive thing. I could never. Maybe that's my limiting belief, right?
Right.
But if I start to understand how Tim Ferriss built his podcast, and I look at how he markets his podcast, and I look at how he edits his podcast, and I look at his newsletter, and I look at his guest outreach strategy, and I look at how he monetizes his podcast, well, all of a sudden, now that super opaque gap between where I am and where Tim is starts to become a little bit more clear. And then now I'm like, well, you know what? Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it's actually not that confusing how he got to where he is. He did, over thousands of episodes. He has a really smart monetization strategy. Because I listened to his strategy. He talks about it. Anybody who's built anything talks about how they do it. He talks about how he optimizes his the landing pages of his advertisers so they have the best possible conversion, so they do repeat business with him, which drives revenue for the show, which obviously helps him grow the show. Anyways, he does a lot of podcasting stuff that he's learned over, however many years, 10, 11, 15 plus years that he's been podcasting. So if you just listen, then you start to get a little bit of a playbook. So then you start to be able to reverse engineer how someone else has done the thing that you want to do. And this applies in anything. I'm talking about podcasting because that's the guy that I looked up to.
You can do it in businesses, right? How people build businesses.
Do it in business. So you look at a doctor or you look at somebody who's built out a massive practice, franchised it out, has now licensed their name to other clients. Well, whatever it is.
Whatever you're trying to do.
Wow, I'm just getting started, but now I can see the path. I can start to reverse engineer. I can learn all the mechanics of all these different pieces that I will eventually have to know to get to where that doctor is. And I think that when you start to break it down, that starts to remove a little bit of the imposter syndrome that allows you to default to action a little bit easier because now you have this playbook that you can execute against. So those are some of the ideas that I hope will help somebody just, again, take action. Because it's not taking action that's difficult. It's all the stuff in our own head. It's all of our own limiting beliefs
100%.
that is stopping us from taking action, right? And if we start to map out the process to get to where we want to go, if we start to learn a little bit more, then all of a sudden taking action doesn't seem so scary in anything. So I think that's probably what would help people the most. And this is like how I started my show. So I didn't start my show with, I mentioned I kind of just launched it, and I did. But I still had a little bit of an idea about what I was doing, which made launching it that much easier. So maybe if you get to the baseline where you know what you're doing, you know kind of how to grow it, you understand a little bit of editing, understand a little bit of marketing for a show, for example, then all of a sudden launching it is not so scary because you're like, all I got to do is start, and then I'm going to start executing against these ideas that I've learned from people that are way ahead of me. And it may not be like I get it to the same level as Tim Ferriss in 5 years, but if I just keep executing, then I can start to see the growth. Then if I just keep doing it for an extended period of time, I can forecast out where this podcast is going to go. Like, it's not that complicated when you almost logic yourself. You have to help yourself understand exactly how it's going to get to where you want it to. And if you have a playbook, you launch the thing, the playbook that you studied and researched and the ideas that you've accumulated, those start to be validated with your own experimentation of that thing, then you're like, oh, okay, that gives you like a little bit more confidence to do the next thing.
Yes.
And I think that's how everybody just has to start. That's the easiest way that I know I can get somebody to stop doubting themselves.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, literally, there's so much to unpack there. I say, the first one is, and this is really key, and something I had to learn, honestly, even as a surgeon, whatever. We're such, as surgeons, we such a solo mentality, lone wolf mentality. And sometimes we want to break out. We want to do other things. We want to be better in whatever. We want to be better surgeons, better in business. And a lot of times when you have these giants, I just talk like just from a medical standpoint, sometimes you don't want to just approach random people because you're like, oh, they're too big for me. They don't you're a young surgeon. You're like, they don't. Obviously, in your own sphere is one thing, your own mentors. But going outside of that, say there's some famous surgeon in Germany, you don't just pick up the phone and call them because you're like, they're not going to want to help me. But it's the same thing. Kind of you mentioned as I transitioned over and was doing a lot of entrepreneurship and business, and now doing this media thing. The crazy thing that I've really found, and I wish I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self and be like, just go ask for help. These guys want to help. In this, like I kind of the circles you run in. I mean, you're just dropping some of the people that you have, and I'm starting to get to meet some of these people. They're the first people want to give you advice. They literally stop. I'm talking about billionaires.
Yeah.
They stop. They're like, oh, you need advice? Let's sit down. Let's talk.
Because first of all, yes,
it's insane.
It is wild at how you just take the chance and take the shot and reach out to people.
Worst that can happen, they don't answer your DM.
100% of people are obviously not going to get back to you. But even when I started my show, I'm a big fan of taking big shots. I just listen to how other people have built. You got to take your shot. And I'm like, you know what? A lot of people that I respect take big shots. Take big chances.
Yes.
So I'm going to do it too. Because I trust. I trust it. They're giving good advice. I have to trust they're giving good advice. So I'm like, let me test this theory out with myself. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then who cares?
What's going to happen?
Nothing. So when I first started the podcast, I just found, I already had some skill sets that allowed me to do this. So that would be step one, to like learn and build and sort of start to learn a little bit about sales and marketing, because that can help any business. But I knew how to find people's email addresses, and I knew I could find people that I wanted to interview on the show. So I would find somebody's email address and I would just cold email them. And I did that with probably about 100 like business influencers, however you want to describe it. So I had Patrick Bet-David, Grant Cardone, Anthony Scaramucci, Guy Kawasaki, who was like one of the first Apple employees. They all said yes to coming on the show in like the first 6 months, just from me just shooting my shot. And then once they come on the show, then you say, hey, I've had these guests on. This is the type of show that I run. Would you like, and then obviously that's social proof for like the next guest. And they all had different reasons. And
that's taking a big shot. Honestly, that's a big shot. If you're going to go, just go. Just go for it. Just go for it.
And even some of the people that I've had on more recently, like I had Gary Vee on, I had Ryan Serhant on, I mentioned Seth Godin, who
it's great.
All these people, when I first started out, I for sure emailed them, and they just ignored me. But what happens is, now they know you exist, because most people do read their emails. Most people do check their DMs. I know. And they see your name, and then they check you out, and they're like, oh, he's just starting out. I'm not going to be rude, but I'm not going to answer just yet. We'll see what happens. And then you hit them up, year 2 and year 3, like once a year. You're not really like bugging these people, but they'll be, oh, I remember this guy, because like I see the last DM he sent me.
Yeah.
So he sent me another DM, and now look at his show now. And then fast forward 5 or 6 or 7 years, you just can't have shame. You just be like, okay, well, I'm going to send another DM, and then finally, like, yeah,
that's it. And then you get it.
Yeah, it's really not that hard. It is not that hard. Most of the people that I know that have built shows, they understand. They understand that if they just take big shots, if they just put in reps, they'll figure it out. The content will become better, because through the process of just doing more, you become a better interviewer. You understand how to edit a show better. I mean, we're all smart people here. We can look at, okay, is the show getting good listener retention? Is the show getting engagement? Are the clips being shared on social media? Like, you start to look for signals. at the end of the day, life is all about pattern recognition. So you can see what works, what doesn't, and you move towards what works, and then you A/B test from there. But at the beginning, when you have no data, it's just like taking big shots. That's really it. And that's in business too. Like I'm talking about building a podcast and emailing some big names.
In this
case,
this applies across.
But you start a business. I mean, you want a customer? Email 5 enterprise customers per day. Just figure out, my background's in B2B sales. So figure out your ideal customer profile, your buyer persona or your avatar, whatever you want to call it. You can Google, how do I find contact information for CMO of X company or CTO or CEO of X company. There'll be about 25 tools that will let you do it for relatively cheap. You use one of those tools, you find the contact information, you send an email out, send 3 to 5 of those emails per day. Very few people will get back to you right away, but one will. Over time, they'll be like, oh, that's interesting. That's whatever product or service you're selling is something that I'm looking for. And then all of a sudden you have an enterprise client that could change your business overnight. You're trying to raise money, go email 5 or 10 big VCs every single day, angels, whatever. You choose who you want to target, and at the end of every day, take 5 big shots. Whoever you want to target, and compound it over time, right? You take 5, that's 25 really audacious things that you've done per week, and over a year, even if 1 or 2 of them gets back to you, I mean, you don't need a lot of enterprise customers to change the whole business. You don't need a lot of investors to write that, to lead a funding round.
Correct.
That's going to get a whole bunch of other investors on board. So my point is, like, when you take these big shots, you'll be surprised at how fast your life and your business will change. But I think a lot of people just never take them.
I think it's right on. They don't want to take the big shots. It's too big for them. They want to take the little incremental, just this little micro steps. And
and it takes you like an hour a day. If you literally were like, with AI.
Oh, you could do it instead of, you're like 5 or 10. You could do like 500 a day if you want. You could get the agents going, and it's just pretty wild.
If you
out here.
You could go. If I'm trying to raise money for a business, okay, I'm trying to grow my business, or I'm trying to get a coffee with a mentor. I don't care whatever the goal is. You go to Claude or ChatGPT. Hey, I'm trying to do this. Give me a list of 100 people that could help me with this. If I'm trying to raise money, be like, hey, I am a CPG company. I am pre-revenue. List 100 venture capital firms or angels that invest in my type of company, in a CPG, beverage category, for example. And it'll write down 100. And then you'll take that list, and you could sometimes ask it, even though it doesn't do a very good job. You say, hey, can you find email addresses for any of these people? But then you take that list and you put it in something like Apollo or any of these other emails, Rocket Reach, a million different tools that do this. And then you can get 100 emails for like, I'm sure you get 100 emails for like $50 or $100. Like, it's not that expensive to do, considering the fact that these people could be writing you $2 to $5 million checks for your business, right? That's not a lot of money. And then you take those emails and you just send 5 a day. It's the same with podcast guests. It's like, and people don't do this. This is what blows my mind. When somebody says, hey, the business isn't working out, I can't raise enough money, I can't get good guests on my podcast. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, how many people did you reach out to? What's your strategy? And they'd be like, well, I hit up like, over the past 6 months, I hit up like 5 VCs. Hit up like 5,000 VCs, bro. Like let's. It's
a numbers game.
Those are rookie numbers. Like, let's pump those numbers up. There's not much else to it in life. It's like you take big shots and you increase the volume, and that figures out most business problems.
And again, just taking big shots. It goes for getting in the rooms, right? They say like, get in rooms you feel like you don't belong, and the whole imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That's where the magic happens. Again, you'd be surprised in how much people want to help you. When I look back at at my career, and I talk about this in my book as far as taking like big shots. There was a time we were like so small. Our company had really shrunk. There's a couple surgeons. And we were having all kinds of issues with insurance, and I had to take a big shot if I was going to save this company. And it's like my upcoming book, and I talk about that. And I literally walked in, and I was going to do it to a lot of people, but it just happened to hit on the first one. So I walked into the CEO, like this hospital CEO's thing, and I said, "You need us. We're the best in the business. We do all this stuff. We'll blow away any other spine surgery group in town. We'll take over all your stuff." Yeah. And he's like, "Whoa, just stop." He's like, who are you again? I didn't really look at your name on it. I'm serious. This guy's name was Tom O'Connor. He was great. I just walked in there, and literally like 2 months later, we were signing this this contract
Yeah.
to like cover their trauma center. And then that turned into a deal. And then we replicated it again with another, it took another big shot with a hospital system that had no idea what they were missing. So I went in there and I said, listen, if we can build all this, and they're like, we don't even know what you're talking about. It didn't make sense. So then I went and I got the CEO that had done the other deal with, brought him in to negotiate the deal because I had done it with him.
Smart guy.
So he helped us. So he was our
Smart.
facilitator. So he facilitated that deal. It wasn't smooth, but that became the biggest deal that we ever did with our business. And now we're 5 times bigger. So and you just have to take the shot. And yeah, was I like a little bit like I felt like I didn't care. I was like I was going to do it. I didn't even know what I was going to say. When I walked in there, I was like, let me look at him first, and then I'll figure something out. Because what's the worst he could say is like, I'm really busy. I'm sorry. I have 5 minutes. That's not going to ruin my life. I'm not going to be like scarred for.
But if you don't take the shot,
life.
your business could die.
100%.
So that could ruin your life.
We would have been gone. And I just lay it all out, And the thing, we just had our administrator had just retired, and she went through this whole thing with me, and we were just telling the stories about how we were on fumes, like it was over. And it went from that to one of the most successful businesses in Minnesota as far as like spine and neurosurgery.
Congrats, that's amazing.
And it's just one of those things you have to take big shots. And sometimes obviously necessity is the mother of invention. Like what else? What else am I going to do? But a lot of people don't do it, and they just say, okay, well this isn't working. I'm just going to go and sell myself and just go and be an employed doctor somewhere and do it. I'm like, no way.
Yeah, I think that. Listen. So that's very frustrating. I think it's because they're not taking themselves seriously. Like if you took yourself seriously and you understand the value that you have as a human, that you can bring to the table, you would take those chances. I think that we do so much to self-sabotage our own success. We say, I'm not worthy of building this business. Like you start it, but then subconsciously,
that's actually a good point. Yep.
You are sabotaging yourself because you're not reaching out to the people that you should be reaching out to. You're not doing the tasks that you should be doing. Because if you had true self-confidence, then you would do these things because in your mind you would believe that, well, the product that I've built can actually help that customer. So I think what you have to, first of all, if you are building a business or you are creating content, like you should always be focusing on the best possible product, whether or not the product is a podcast interview or the product is like a widget that you're selling. Like if you always bring the best product to market, I find it a lot easier to have the confidence to sell yourself. And sell what your service is. I think that that's probably something that a lot of people could focus on. Like have the best possible product, keep improving your craft, and then that makes it a lot easier to sell. I think that gives you self-confidence. Because if you kind of have like a bullshit product that you're trying to sell to somebody, I think it's a lot harder to get behind it. I think that's
it's a lot harder to get behind it, but it's also a lot of those people end up being exposed, right? Because that's the overpromise, and then they underdeliver, and now you're in the underdeliver camp, and those people,
well, that's why you
got to be really careful with those people. You
got to work like hell to always overdeliver. But when you do that, then I feel like then it becomes a lot easier to take these big shots.
Yeah.
Like if you stand behind what you've done and what you've built, then you're almost doing a disservice to the customer not taking the shot and not getting in touch with them because it could change their life or it could radically improve their business. So, yeah, I can't remember what your question was originally, but it's something along the lines of just defaulting to action.
That's how we go.
But all these ideas that were
it was great. You answered it great about like what you need to do and taking the big shots and
well, these
and
are the
doing
things
these
that sort of
things
move the needle on your business or in your life. Like that's really it. So I'm just trying to figure out what are the mental models and frameworks that allow somebody to actually do these things. And I think that a few of the things we touched on, like you have to sort of reverse engineer what someone else has done. You have to first of all enjoy what you're doing so you can stay in the game for an extended period of time. That will also sort of contribute to your success. We talked about sort of self-trust. And if you don't have that because I think self-trust is what allows you to take these big shots that can really move the needle on your business. If you don't have self-trust, if you have massive amounts of imposter syndrome, I think a really good exercise to go through is to understand how many times you've actually won in your life. Because as humans, we actually, it's really easy for us to remember all the things that haven't worked out and all the negative in our life, the time we, got divorced, sued, dumped, fired, whatever. And then if we just sort of keep track of those things, that can really hurt our self-confidence and stop us from doing the next thing. But if we understand in life, the majority of our day is us winning and succeeding at things, we have to sort of keep track of those and use that as proof that we can accomplish the next thing as well. So I think that's also a good exercise if you lack the confidence, or if you have too much imposter syndrome and it's sort of holding you back from really taking the moves and taking the action that you should. But out of all the people that I've interviewed, these ideas are very common. Like all these things that we're speaking about, these are traits that I see in every single successful entrepreneur, every single successful founder. I mean, even people that aren't successful just in business, so athletes, actor, whatever it is, these are the traits that sort of and core principles that guide their life.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that looking and having that body of work and seeing it, like the blueprint is there. Like people want to know how to, if you want to be successful in certain areas. Now, people are different because we're talking about like entrepreneurial mentality is very, very different than the kind of the 9-to-5 mentality. But people can also extrapolate them to other areas of their life. Like they can take all the great principles that you kind of espouse and do it to be a better dad or a better whatever. Sometimes people listen to these kinds of conversations and they're like, that's not really what I do, and that's okay, because there are people that are just, they're not into this stuff, because being an entrepreneur is very difficult. You have ups and downs, and it's just different. But it's the same ups and downs you have as a dad or whatever.
I'll tell you something. So when this is something that I'm adamant about. Everybody should have an entrepreneur mindset. Everybody, even if you work a 9 to 5.
I'm with you on that one.
So when people say like, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur, this podcast doesn't apply to me, I'd be like, listen. If you adopt that sort of worldview, especially with all the new technology with AI, you are going to be replaced very quickly. So even the best employees going forward are people that are entrepreneurial, are self-taught, can persevere, can figure out problems, can come up with solutions, can be a little bit disruptive. These are personality traits. Forget about whether or not you have an LLC or you have a W-2. Like, it doesn't really matter. This is a personality. Entrepreneurship is a personality trait. I truly believe that. It's all these things I just mentioned, like a couple different things that you have to be able to do to become a successful entrepreneur. These are the same personality traits that will allow you to be a successful employee and make a lot of money within a company and keep a job. The age of assembly line administrative task worker, like that's being replaced with AI or robotics
rapidly.
So you have to be an entrepreneur within the organization. You have to come up with ideas that are moving the company forward, even if it's not your company. That is the value you bring to the company now. And if you don't bring that value to the company, at some point in the probably very near future, you will be replaced. So I think that you have to start to think like an entrepreneur. And I believe that the best employees could, and the best employees not just could be, are potentially the most successful entrepreneurs. They just chose to not do that for whatever particular reason. Maybe they don't want to start a business. Maybe it's not the season of life that they're in. Maybe they want a little bit more predictability with their paychecks because they're starting a family, or maybe they have built a business in the past and now they're in a period of their life where they don't want all the stress and the ownership and the anxiety, but they could still do it. They could still do it. If you pick them up and plop them in San Francisco and said, go start a company, they could figure it out. But they're now working for somebody. If you look at the largest companies in the world, so Google, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, whatever, Amazon, a lot of the people that run those companies, or not even run them, like directors, VPs, especially at Google, that has grown through acquisition, where they find a company, they acquire it, and the founder becomes like VP of this department. A lot of the people in those companies could just start companies themselves. They're brilliant. They could figure out how to build a company from scratch, and they could be an entrepreneur, but they're not. They're tying their skill set to a larger purpose, right? Or maybe they were at some point, and now they were acqui-hired, and now they're working within a company. But if they were fired, they'd be fine, because they'll figure it out. If you are fired and you haven't upskilled yourself and you don't know the basics of sales and marketing, you don't know and don't feel comfortable taking a problem and figuring out a complete solution yourself without any help, like, you're going to be in trouble. But a true entrepreneur could do all of these things, could figure out any problem themselves. So I think that that's why all employees have to start thinking like entrepreneurs. And have to approach learning and upskilling like an entrepreneur would, even if they never open an LLC, ever. Doesn't matter.
That is unbelievably incredible advice for people that are going to watch this. Honestly, that's really important, because I think as we go into this age of AI, and recently I've been posting about some of this stuff. Some of the stuff Elon says, I'm going to ask you about that actually, because I love your take on it, since you're not in the medical field. But people do not realize the speed that this is all moving. They have no idea, because we can't think exponentially, but now this is real exponential. I mean, the AI age, if you listen to these AI scientists talking, it's exponents of exponents.
Yes.
It's like, it's not x to the second, it's to the fourth maybe. It's insane. And those numbers, we can't think that way, and that's how fast this stuff is moving. And it's coming fast, and that's why, kind of we were talking earlier about my concern for a lot of people in healthcare, because you get so tied in to what you're doing. You're tied to your page, you're dealing with patients, you're kind of missing the boat. And I feel like a lot of healthcare providers have really fallen behind into what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I'm really worried, because at certain levels there is going to be, you're not going to be able to be good at what you do if you're not aware of AI and what's happening with robotics and just being an entrepreneur and solving problems. Because otherwise, if you're not solving problems, you're very replaceable, and you have to provide so much value that you can't be replaced. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game.
You're going to be, even if you are great at your craft, especially as a practitioner, you are an entrepreneur whether you like it or not. Like, you have to attract clients, you have to retain clients, you have to market your leads. It's very different than somebody who's doing like lawn work, who's like working for somebody, like their job. Well, maybe robotics will eventually replace their job, but at least right now they still have a steady job. But if they work and they own their own lawn care company, you better figure out how AI is going to help you market and help you scale and help you
buy the
attract
robots
customers and
that are your army, your lawn mowing army.
But I think people in your audience in particular, they have to learn these skills, because there's going to be somebody who's going to come and eat your lunch someday, and who's going to figure out how to market a practice better than you, who's going to figure out how to attract and retain customers, patients better than you. And even if you are the most skilled, you have to find a way to stay relevant and stay top of mind. And I think that this is it's not just AI in terms of administrative tasks. AI is going to sort of disrupt all parts of a business. So, I mean, yeah, you can't, I don't think anybody should just close their eyes to it and pretend it doesn't exist. That seems like a very bad strategy.
But they're doing that.
There was this chart that I just saw, which is wild to me, because of, again, I'm in this area where I'm interviewing all these people that are great entrepreneurs and founders, and they obviously use AI and they understand it and they study it and they research it, and they're messing around with like Claude Bot and setting up agents in their free time. But then I saw this chart that was something like 28% of the world even knows what ChatGPT is, or something.
Wow.
Like wild.
That's wild.
Like has like an account, and you realize that all these tools that are meant to improve our lives are just going to sort of further create gap between people that don't understand it and can't use it and people that do. So it's not going to. It's meant to make life easier, life better. What it's really going to do is it's going to consolidate skill set and resources and power with a select few group of people that really understand how to use it, and then everyone else is going to be massively struggling. I think that's probably one of the scariest things, because if somebody understands how to use AI, let's talk about building a practice, right? They're going to be able to market en masse. They're going to be able to attract more customers. They're going to be able to grow. They're going to be able to franchise out. They're going to be able to do all the things. And then there's going to be all these individual practitioners that have no idea how to do this. And they're going to start to see their clients leaving them and their patients leaving them. And they're not going to know why. Well, because somebody else is running some sort of AI tool that A/B tests 2,000 pieces of marketing creative every single minute. And one of those pieces of marketing creative that's now being run on a Facebook ad set that hyper targets a specific customer base that is going to be attracting your clients away in your local zip code, and you have no idea what's going on. Like the use case for AI is endless, right? But just in terms of business building, if you don't understand it, and if you can't wrap your mind around it, you're going to be replaced by somebody who can, probably very quickly. So I think that this is scary for a lot of people, but this is why everybody has to be learning it, understanding it, playing around with it, at least getting an account on ChatGPT or Claude.
And not just using it to find their local restaurant, using it as an actual extension, of themselves, which is incredible.
Ask it. Hey, I do this. How should I use you to grow my business? Just ask it, and it'll tell you.
Oh, I do this all day.
And I could be like,
I do this all day long.
But
it's amazing what you can do.
You are, just by doing that, you are light years ahead of most of your peers.
I'm aware of this. They don't know.
And not because you have access to some special.
I don't have nothing special.
You have an hour at night, and when you're watching TV, you're just messing around on the computer. And listen, this is where I think everybody should be right now. This is what everybody should be doing, but they're not.
They should be doing it today, like as soon as today, whenever this thing. But they should be doing it as they're watching the show, because they're really falling behind. You brought up something. It's interesting. It's even a bigger picture thing. And that really will apply to any business. And you said, like, people taking customers and stuff like that. And I just had this discussion, as I just work with different organizations. I actually just became the president of this global organization. But anyway, I was just talking to people about the importance of, and it's so simple. I have to simplify it. It's like eyeballs. The number one, this is a Gary Vee thing, right? Like the number one thing that every single person, no matter what, you should be chasing attention.
Of course.
Attention. Period. Without attention, in the way that the things work now, you're done.
Of course.
It's over. And so, if you are in healthcare, obviously that's kind of where, I am right now. So if you're in healthcare and no one knows you exist, you can have the best, you can have the best products. Like just to give an example, like we are always looking at ways to target different things. So for example, we do like regenerative medicine in one of the integrative health clinics I do. If no one knows that you have a technique that only a few people in the country are doing,
of course,
and has a dramatically better chance of preventing you from ever having a total knee replacement than other types of stuff, you can't be shocked if no one comes there.
Of course
because they don't know. And people are like, this is great. And I'm telling you, this is the doctor mindset. I talk to these people all the time. I talk to people like from all over the world, because I do this other organization, and they're just like, oh yeah, we invented this thing. I was like, well, who knows about that? And then I say, well, I said, I went to your you have one video posted in the last 2 years, and it has 7 views. And so how are you getting, I don't understand. I'm like, how, and you're upset? And they're upset. They're like, I have the greatest thing ever, and no one, and it's interesting because it is such a common theme. And again, you don't see it as much in certain other areas. Like people get it. Like attorneys, for example, they know if you don't have the billboards and you don't have this and that. I have like really good attorney friends. Like one of them has like every freaking billboard in Minnesota. It's the craziest thing. But if you're not out there, if you don't have eyeballs, no one's calling. You have a car accident. Why would you call them? What are you gonna do? Were you looking at the yellow pages? Like where are you gonna go?
Of course not. But now you like we're talking about AI. I mean, AI can be it could be your marketing agency that now you have access to for free. Like you just go ask AI, hey, this is the product, this is the service, this is who I think my customer is. Write me out a content marketing plan, a social media plan, and link me examples of other types of content that I could recreate for my own business.
1 minute.
1 minute. That's it.
Unless you do like the deep thing. The deep thing takes a little bit longer if you do that. And then it's like, that's level 2. I go, this stuff, but anyway.
I'm not asking you to like become like an AI researcher.
You have to be a guru. Yeah, you have to go to Harvard and get a PhD in AI.
When I'm telling people that everybody should use an AI, like ask it the basic shit that you're already paying people to tell you. Like if you're a practitioner, you're probably paying a marketing agency to figure out how to market your brand. Okay, so like just ask it that. Ask it, I want to grow my business. How do I do that? I want to expand. I noticed that I'm overworked because I can't hire good talent. What am I doing wrong in my hiring of my team? Like these are simple questions, but now it has access to the smartest people on planet Earth aggregating their information on these questions and feeding it to you in, while you're watching Netflix at night.
It is the easiest thing to do.
Even with content. So my business is content, right? That's my job. My job is to create great content. I know a lot of content creators that, they just post stuff and hope it works. They just post and hope it works. So I use AI to analyze, first of all, when I'm creating a piece of content. Okay, so I have this podcast. I have a transcript. What are the few key points that I should put in my intro? What are the few key points that I should pull out and turn into social clips? And what are the hooks for those points? And then I'll try it, and then I'll look at the retention on the actual, because retention is actually the one metric, especially for video content, you should be paying attention to. Whether or not you look at it on YouTube or you look at it on Instagram, retention is key.
Yeah, how far it's dropping down until
Exactly.
the end, because that's going to tell you how many views you're going to get.
It's
you
going to tell you if
You
somebody
can know
likes
in the
your
first 10
content.
minutes
That's
how
it.
your video is going to do by just looking at the retention
So
curve.
you ask AI, and you're like, help me turn this into something that's worth watching. And then you can also be like, and I do this as well, be like, hey, my clips aren't doing as well on Instagram right now. Can you help me with a new strategy to leverage my Instagram to grow my podcast? And through sort of my marketing, a little bit of my marketing knowledge, but also with AI, I have a strategy on Instagram that helps me grow my show, which is a little bit counterintuitive because I have on Instagram different types of content, and I have sort of like a funnel built into my Instagram account that helps me attract people, get them to know who I am, and then eventually turn them into podcast listeners. And very, very briefly, because you can see it, I have 3 types of content on my Instagram. I have motivational quotes, I have talking head videos of me, and then I have podcast clips of me and my guest. The motivational quotes get between 2 to 5 million views sometimes. They go crazy, super shareable. I attract new followers through the motivational quotes. People who read motivational quotes and share them on social aren't all podcast listeners, but some are. So I attract people to my profile through motivational quotes. I show them a video of me so they understand who Scott is and maybe they like some of my ideas. And then I finally post a picture of me with a cool podcast guest with a call to action that allows them to comment, and then I send them an episode for the podcast. So if that's my sort of Instagram funnel to attract people to my Instagram to eventually turn them into podcast listeners. If, for example, I just posted podcast clips, I would not grow my Instagram, and my Instagram would not be as effective at growing the asset that I want to grow, which is my podcast. And I'll have these mini funnels built out across all of my social media. Now, I'm telling you that because it'll actually help you a little bit, but outside of
I'm taking mental notes. This
Outside
is
of
all
that-
I'm taking mental notes.
This is a strategy that I built out with AI, by researching other creators, by figuring out which type of content is optimized for which type of platform, by paying attention and pattern recognition, and by ultimately understanding, like, I'm going to use AI to help me accomplish my end goal. Like, because I see what a lot of podcasters do incorrectly, in my opinion, is if they have a podcast, they will just post talking head podcast clips on their Instagram, and they'll post nothing else. Because they're like, well, I have a podcast, I'm going to use Instagram.
They're using it just their whole content.
I understand the
system.
rationale,
Yeah.
but they don't understand how the average Instagram short form content viewer does not automatically turn into an average long form podcast listener. So somebody who's scrolling on Instagram, while they're in the bathroom, their behavior is wildly different than somebody who sits down for 2 hours and listens to us chat. So if you just post podcast content, especially because now there's so much podcast content out there, the talking head sort of like, you asked me what, there's so much of that out there that it's white noise. You'll skip through that. But that means that if I post podcast content, I'm not growing my channel, which means that new people aren't discovering me who could actually like long form content. So I got to understand the behavior of the user on that particular platform, and then optimize my content for that platform to eventually use that platform for my end goal, which is long form podcast listeners, or I also optimize for newsletter subscribers. But my point is, that marketing strategy was me and like Claude and ChatGPT sitting at home at night, figuring out exactly how to leverage things to improve the growth of my show. And I've done that I just mentioned Instagram, but I've done that with thumbnails, show notes, emails to send out to potential guests. I've done it with everything. Like, I use AI now as my, I have a CMO, but I also use it as a CMO to A/B test new ideas to build my business. And my business is content. My business is the podcast. That's what I do. So I'm saying use it as this like thought partner for whatever business you're building, and just pressure test your own assumptions and belief systems and ideas, and just ask it, is this smart? Is this working? Should I keep doing this? Should I change something up? Should I A/B test? Across your entire business. Tackle one problem at a time by using AI, and you will be amazed at how much that will help you. I mean, this whole strategy that I came up with by chatting with AI basically has turned Instagram from a relatively, before I did this strategy, Instagram was good for social proof because I had a good audience and a good following, but it was not growing my
It wasn't
podcast.
a funnel for your
So I'm like, it's
podcast.
great,
Yeah.
but it's not useful. So now it's turned useful. So that's
And that's
huge.
another question. It's like when you do these things, it's
Yeah.
like when you started this kind of at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's like to what end? Like why are
course.
you doing that? I think that's the first thing. I think that these like really brilliant business minds, and of course they've gone through their stuff, they've paid their dummy tax, whatever, and now they're at a certain point. But when you talk to them, because the more I get into these rooms with these incredible people, I'll just say something to them. They'll say, "What are you working on?" "I'm working on this."
Yeah.
"Why? For what end? How are you monetizing it?
Smart.
What are you doing? Where are you trying to drive it?" And right away, and I'm just learning more of this because a lot of people, when they do these things, they do it for the sake of doing it, or they want to get some dopamine hits and get a bunch of likes, or dance
that's
around,
silly.
or do whatever. It's like, why are you trying to do this? So for me, it's just like it really started like I was saying before, was to take really complicated kind of medical ideas and just teach people what's available out there, because the amount of misinformation in medicine is right now it's staggering. And I just had this Dr. Ivan on the show, and we were just chatting about it, and boy, he got fired up. I mean, I asked him the right question, but it's like, you have all these influencers out there, and they have a big following. And some of them, they just kind of spew random stuff. It's like, this is the secret to life. This is thing. And then a physician, so they'll go out there and they'll get like, their post will get like 700,000 likes, not views, likes.
Crazy
and then the
numbers.
physician will go out there and we'll work, and we're drawing diagrams and we're doing all this stuff, and we're distilling it into really like this is how it works, and this is why it works, and this is why, I believe in this stuff. And then you get 10 views. And then it's just like,
but the physician's information is good, and the influencer's information is clickbait.
It's clickbait. Not always. Now, I'm not saying, and again, I don't want to, because I know some of these people know, but they don't, we were just talking about, they don't understand like the mechanism. Like right now, a really hot topic are peptides. So I'm really into peptides, okay? And it's a little controversial in our industry, mostly because we're so siloed, and so, like so many people are still in what I call my ignorant phase, where you just don't want to hear about stuff you don't learn about medical school. That's what it is. You're just closed off. You don't want to do this stuff.
That mindset is why you're gonna go out of business one day.
Correct.
Like the same mindset as to why you don't want to learn about peptides is the same reason why you are no longer
You're
in business in
absolutely
5
right.
years.
They don't want to change, but they're out there. They're like, I'll post something. They're like, "Oh my God, you're becoming one of these doctors that talk about stuff that's not FDA approved." I'm like, 48% of like the FDA is funded by big pharma. Why do you think things are not FDA approved? Like, I'm an insider. Like, you don't understand, man.
You have to kill your ego too.
Understand. You have to. You start growing a little bit, trolls and all that stuff.
But that's also why people, like, I mean, like, I'm not in the medical space at all, but I mean, a lot of people don't even trust their GP. A lot of people don't trust their GP anymore because they can't.
But there's a reason for that, though.
Yeah, because
there's
when
a reason for that.
I know when I look something up online, I'm a smart guy. I know that I shouldn't take the information online and just assume that it's true. But I do know that there's some things that are not discussed by my GP.
That is my mind.
That 100% could help me out. 100%. Because I also, listen, I'm not an idiot. I know there's incentives to push certain things. I know you're lobbied by pharma reps and drug companies to push certain things.
We can talk about this for
So
hours.
I don't think the average person in the U.S. is that healthy. It's what is it? It's not preventative. It's all like retroactive. Like after you get sick, then they're trying to push drugs on you.
Yeah, we call it sick care. So
That's
it's
it, yes.
4.7 to 4.9 trillion. 90% of it is for sick care. We like keeping people sick. We like them coming back. It is the entire thing. It's like everything that's in my book. I'm so passionate about that. I'm trying to cut through the noise and do that. But now it's like the Wild West. So, you're on Instagram and you got these influencers, you got this stuff. And the thing that boils me the most, I don't even know how to handle this, is that we are now politicizing health.
It's so stupid.
Honestly, it's the number one dumbest thing that I've ever seen.
And it's super dangerous too.
It's super dangerous. Yeah. Like as soon as a particular molecule is tied to one political party or the next, people come in and they just go, "Oh my God, you're with it. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that." I'm like, first of all, I'm here to help all people. It's ridiculous. Well, I'll tell you. Okay,
so what's the oath? What's the oath you take again as a doctor?
The Hippocratic Oath?
Hippocratic Oath, right? So the oath...
Do no harm.
Do no harm.
Yeah.
So if you are ignorant and your patient and you choose to not even research what your patients are now being inundated with...
I literally just did a post on that the other day.
They're researching peptides. They see peptides. Their friends are taking peptides. Or forget peptides. What about TCM and other types of medicine outside of what we know in the U.S. or Canada, right? So they're being told about this stuff. Some of them will try it. If you don't even understand the basics of it, to have a knowledgeable conversation with your patient, I think you're doing harm.
They don't understand.
I think you're violating your Hippocratic Oath by being ignorant towards information. Because how can you ever have a good conversation? How can you not do harm if you don't even have the information to advise somebody properly?
They don't have the information, and it's the most frustrating thing. And so, like, my call to action for those guys is like, listen, you want to, okay, if you only want to do stuff that's, first of all, physicians have been doing non-FDA approved forever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, off-label is
off-label. That's one of the reasons to get a medical license.
Yeah.
You go off, that's why we call it the practice of medicine. Now, there's some people that are great at it, and some people not so good. So certainly find the great doctors that are doing things that are safe and making sure they're managing you right and understand the thing. And that's up to the patient. You have to. I mean, you can't just turn over your whole life to people. You need to, for God's sake, be the CEO of your own health, which is kind of like my mantra. But going backwards. If you're not going to do that, if you're not comfortable or you're afraid of everything, some of these guys are so afraid to go outside the box because we're siloed. We're taught that. We're like, oh my God, you didn't learn that at Columbia. Yeah. I don't understand why you're doing it. But if you can't even, these docs can't speak the people's language anymore. That's why when I, as a traditional spine surgeon, I heard these stories. Thousands of them, people just getting sicker, going back to the same wall. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So then I went into the integrative health world, started these clinics, started seeing patients there. I'm not kidding. I would say 90% of the clinic visits in the integrative health clinic, the first 10 minutes is how they've not been heard in their traditional medical system. They're like, no one knows what they're talking about. They're like, I have this disease, and I was told, oh, that's not a real thing. Like we treat a lot of like mold toxin illness, all these toxin stuff and Lyme and just all this crazy stuff that I didn't think I was going to treat, but now I made myself an expert in it because you know what? The information's out there and you can become an expert if you know all the other stuff. It's not that hard. So they don't know and the doctors can't speak. So I get a 10-minute bashing of whoever tried to treat them before. And then I said, let's look into the future. We got you. And here's what we're going to do. Here's our treatment strategy. But it's getting worse. But not only is it getting worse, but now, because of the way social is, and I just watched this like really carefully. There's guys like Dr. Ivan that I had on the show. He doesn't he doesn't care. Like he just says whatever. But there's a lot of people that want to talk about this stuff and putting out like really good educational content, and they're just getting destroyed. That's not FDA. Like this thing with what's FDA approved and what's not. Just let's stop pretending that's like a normal process.
Of course,
stop it.
Of course.
And so
now there are some things. There are some parts of even like peptides that are harmful.
Absolutely.
And there's some things that are super beneficial.
But that's why you have to go. That's why you need an expert to guide you. These guys, it's the Wild West. If you don't know about it, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go and just do crazy stuff. They're going to be all these influencers. Oh, you do this stack, the Wolverine stack, the other stack. I'm like, I'm glad that you can read about all this stuff, but guys, where did you learn pharmacology? Where did you learn physiology? Where did you learn, like systems biology? Like, you don't know what these things do. Okay, so they're on a blood thinner. Now you're putting them on all this other stuff. Yeah. Like, what do you know? Like, you're pushing all this stuff. You're pushing your game.
That's why your GP has to research and not just, they can't just live with the knowledge that they graduated from med school with 30 years ago.
Two types of people in the world, right? And I know you know, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this from some, two types of people in the world. People that thirst for knowledge and want to learn everything because we don't know anything. Mm-hmm. I'm in that camp. Same. I'm like, we know very, very little. And people that spend all their time defending what they already know. Those are the two, that's it. I think that. So anyway, let's close it up like this, because this is something that's real important, and it'll tie the business with the health thing. And I know you'll have a lot to say on this. It's really important. So what I see, we can talk all day, go for it, do all this stuff, wake up early, shrink the time and do all these things. But even in the like when people are fairly successful business owners, or they have money, or they have the stuff that people want, right? People look and they say, that guy has a nice, I want that. But the average American, even people that are more in the more upper echelon, are not well overall metabolically. If we look at the numbers, it's probably less than 15% of people have metabolic health across the board. It's very small. I mean, these are like real studies that are done across large population segments. And so, what do you see? Do you see that there are people that, they've become really successful and they're doing great, but they let their health kind of get out of control, and that, because if your health is, if you're not well, $1 billion, 10 billion, a trillion. You could have literally a trillion. You could say you're in charge. That's it. It's all yours. What are you gonna do with that? Matter. You feel sick. Think about when you have a flu.
Of course.
Do you care about your podcast when you have a flu?
Zero. Not at all. Not at all.
So what do you see there? But I will say that there are some of, in that group, some of them are the biggest biohackers and they do everything. And those are like my patients that come and see. They're great. They're great people. But there are that subset. You look at them, and maybe you're interviewing them. And again, I don't know all the people you've interviewed, but sometimes I've had people, and they're very successful. I meet them somewhere, and I'm like, why?
Well, I'll tell you what happens. Yeah. So this is something I like to talk about a lot. I think that there's sort of 5 buckets in life. So you have your business success, you have your mental and physical health, you have so mental health, physical health, relationship health. And then you can add spirituality into that too. Like things that I think everybody should have some sort of practice daily to level up across these 5 buckets. And when I say spirituality, it could be meditation, it could be journaling, it could be religion, doesn't matter to me. I think that we have been sold a lie about entrepreneurship and business building, that we can only succeed at that, and everything else kind of has to take a back seat. And what I actually think is going on when we only focus on making money or building a business and everything else kind of goes to shit is we are doing a whole bunch of stuff that actually doesn't move the needle in our business but makes us feel busy. I think that the best entrepreneurs, the ones that I look up to who have built huge companies, they have found a way to spend so many hours on their business, and even if when they're first starting it's a little bit imbalanced, they eventually find a way to bring their business back in balance with the other buckets of their life, and one of those is being health. I think that what we end up doing is we get so worried about success and making money that we just ignore the other things, or we say they're not important, or we say we'll take care of those things later, one of them being our health. The other thing that I see people ignore is relationships a lot. So whether or not it's I'm overweight and now I'm successful, or I'm 3 marriages deep and now I'm successful. Like I see those two things quite often. I believe it's just I believe it's because we don't delegate, we don't focus on what actually moves the needle, and we're almost afraid. We're almost afraid to say that we're not as good entrepreneurs as we think we are. Because if we were great entrepreneurs, then I think we could have balance across all of those things. And one example in the story that I like to tell is about Mark Randolph, who's a co-founder of Netflix, who every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, shut off from Netflix, turned off his phone, and would go on date night with his wife. And that was a practice. And he did that purposefully so he could maintain a great relationship, and obviously loving relationship with his wife as he built Netflix. And people tell me that they don't have time to date and don't have time to build relationships or don't have time for their family, when the person who built one of the largest companies in the world had time to do it. So I think that we just have a hard time. I think we have a hard time with priorities, and I think that if we were really honest with ourselves, we'd realize that all the extra hours we do, we pour into the business doing all of these kind of like slightly important but not that important things that we could probably delegate, we should become better entrepreneurs, learn to delegate those things, and then block off time for health, wellness, eating right, relationships, all these other buckets in our life. And I think we'd be much more balanced and happy. And then I think that we wouldn't wake up at 55, 60 and be like, what has my life turned into? All I have is money. So I think that's something that I see. I mean, it's tough because you see people that are wildly successful that have not paid attention to anything else in their life except money. Those are not the people that I look up to.
And we shouldn't, because you have nothing. Without it, you have nothing.
So I think that the people that I get sort of front row access to some of the greatest people on earth. The people that I actually look up to, that I not just have built a big company, but have built a big company, and then they have great relationships, and their kids love them, and their spouse loves them, and they're in good shape, and they're living a life that I'd be like, that's what I want. You have the money plus everything else. And the people that only have money, I don't think they're truly happy.
No.
I think I see that because when they only have money, that's when they start trying to lose weight, eat good, start caring about their health at like 60, 65, because now they're worried about dying. Now they're and also like
that's a whole. I mean, we can. That's
so like now they're like trying to play catch up with their health. Or they're trying to play catch up with the relationships. They've screwed over relationships with all these different people that love them, and now they're looking for love at like 55, 60, and they don't know how to find it anymore because they fucked up and they didn't pay attention and didn't nurture their relationships while they were in build mode. And I see that often, and it's just it's sad. But I mean, if the lesson that you can take away from this is, if you are ambitious, if you are entrepreneurial, like just don't do that and let everything else in your life fall apart. Because I see what's on the other side of that. And yeah, you may look great and you may have like a Forbes piece talking about your 9-figure exit. But I can tell you, when like the cameras turn off and we have real conversations, some of these people are not thriving in all areas of their life.
No.
And they're all trying to play catch up, and they're all trying to find ways to, find love, find health. And sometimes, I don't want to say it's ever too late, but I'm saying that it would have been a lot better if they had started working on those other things a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's definitely never too late, but they're unfortunately, sadly, as a physician, I see it all the time. I see these people, and some of them are really successful, which is just, to me, it's wild. It's like, you have money, but you're not taking care of the vessel.
Well, how many really rich people smoke?
None.
Because they want to live long.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't think about that for the first 30 years of their career, and they're eating like shit. And then all of a sudden, they wake up one day and they have money and nothing else.
And they're sick. And I see all these people. And the thing that is even more frustrating to me, and listen, obviously, I'm talking about billionaires and some of these other people, but I'm just saying, like, just successful executives, people that do really well. They have these beautiful homes. They do all this other stuff. But yet, at the same time, when you have conversations with them about their health, they're kind of like, let me just do a little bit. I'll just worry about that another time. I'll worry about that later. The problem is there are points. I've seen people get to a point so bad their mental health is wrecked.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Their physical health is wrecked. Their knees are bad right now. They need knee replacements or stem cells. Think about stem cells, guys, before getting that knee replacement. But then they need all these other things. And you're absolutely right. It's that retirement syndrome, right? I'll do it when.
Yeah.
When I get to this thing. So now I'm going to go. So then you see all the people, they're 82, and then you ask them, they're like, what do they say? I wish I'd retired at 50 and taken that Alaska cruise. They're like, I can't even walk. I can't even get from my room to the deck.
It's always easier to maintain. It's always easier to maintain than to start from scratch at whatever age you're at.
In anything in life. So listen, I'll end it with this. This has been, first of all, fantastic. I thank so much for taking the time. I'm not the usual kind of person that you hang out with and whatever.
About?
I'm like the only guy without a yacht. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You spend enough time in Miami, you'll accidentally get a yacht.
I'll accidentally get a yacht. Yeah, I'll be on yours. It won't be mine. But in the last chapter of my book, and we'll just finish up there. This is one of my favorite things. And some people are like, oh, that sounds corny. I don't care. But it's this taking care of yourself. Self-care is one of the things I preach about all the time. I'm like so into it. And it really bothers me when people don't. Obviously, you take care of yourself. And
I'm obsessed about
You're
my
obsessed.
health.
I know. And you talk about it. And I'm sure that, when people ask you for advice, you say, obviously, take care of yourself. So last chapter in my book, instead of the blue zones, I just wrote this concept, the me and you zones, right? It's not the you and me, it's me and you zones. And that goes like this. I have to take care of me, this is my advice I'm giving, so that I can take care of you.
Oh, I love
Think
that.
about how communities would be, just communities. Forget about like the larger, broader scope. If we had all these communities where people literally took care of themselves, they felt good, they were clear, they can have conversations like this where we can vibe and be like dialed in, we're not like so tired and thinking, oh my God, I can't function right now, that kind of stuff. Now you're feeling good, now you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your neighbor, you're taking care of your business, you're doing stuff. Think about how the world would be. I think right now we have a bunch of people that are in dysfunction. They don't feel well.
Oh, one more very quick thought about health. We always think about health in terms of like we're going to the gym or dieting or eating right for us. It's about all the people around you, because if you are sick, then they have to spend money. They have to spend time taking care of you. If you have no health left, then you are putting a burden on everybody around you who loves you to sort of step up. So I think it's very selfish not to take care of yourself.
Me and you zones.
That's it. I love this idea. I've never heard it said like that. It's not corny.
It's
memorable, not corny. It's
I always, listen, I
but
say
this
what
is
I
it. So you let your health go to shit.
Yeah, 100%.
Then everybody else in your life is stepping up. It's costing them. It's not a nice
Not to
thing
mention,
do.
it's stressing the system. Do you know how stressed the healthcare system is in America? It's just like this big,
no doubt.
this big loop. Yeah. So guys, listen, take care of yourselves, and then you're going to make the world a better place. I think a lot of crime, a lot of just the bad stuff that we're seeing right now, a lot of family dysfunction, a lot of all these things, because people don't feel well. It's that processed foods. It's all those toxins that you're around.
Yeah.
It's your lifestyles. You're not sleeping. People are messes. You're on. Listen,
Medical bankruptcy forcing you to make bad life decisions because
I could do it.
I have no doubt.
We could do shows on insurance company. You say, like, I did this post that did really well, and I just said the peer review process what they're doing to the American. Right now, we're in a mess.
But imagine if you ate well, you went to the gym, you lifted heavy, you focused on your VO2 max, like all these different things, and you didn't stress out the system. You didn't, hopefully, God forbid, have to use insurance as much as we do.
Changes everything. Stay away from people like me. That's actually the best thing. Not in my longevity, integrative health capacity. I mean, as a surgeon and traditional doctor. So listen, this has been incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. Obviously, I just watch your stuff. I always learn a lot. Just even from the little. I mean, obviously your podcast is amazing, but even from the little nuggets. So everyone should obviously follow you. And go there. Is there any way you want to just let people know where to find you and where to go?
Yeah, podcast that I run is called Success Story. I do a lot of this stuff as well, and then my socials all at Scott D. Clary if you want to find me.
All right, find this man. Thanks for watching another episode of Business at the Speed of Light. This has been incredible. What an incredible guy. We'll see you guys next time.